Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tacos Tuesday with me, Vince Montero. I am in my home office today, so apologies for the quality of the video and possibly the sound. Our office is getting redesigned, repainted, and all kinds of fun stuff I'm excited to see when I go back into the office. But that's why I'm here at home today. If you guys are first-time attendees, what we like to start out with is just let me know where you guys are signing in from. Like to know where people are viewing. We're streaming right now live across Facebook, YouTube, I believe even LinkedIn. So it's always cool to see, where people are viewing from. So let us know. I know we've got some of our regulars that come and join whenever we do these. These are bi-weekly. I should say bi-monthly. I do these about minimum twice a month, sometimes three, depending on how many weeks there are in the month. So for those of you that are used to coming on and asking questions, thank you for being here. You guys support us and support me personally in these sessions, which I really do enjoy doing. And let's see, we've got quite a few different people logging in right now. Houston, Pakistan, Tempe, Arizona. How is the weather out there? Afghanistan on LinkedIn. That's great. Thanks for being here, Max. I see Jake's already got some questions out here, but we won't get to those until later. Okay, Jake. Yeah, we're going to go into some Q&A after we do a particularly focused training session. Oh, hi from Turkey. That's awesome. I know Bradley was recently in Pakistan, so if we've got a lot of new viewers from Pakistan, hello, welcome to you guys, and hopefully you did. Hopefully you got a lot done while Bradley was out there. Hey, Brian. Brian's up in Washington State. So, like I said, we have topics that we go through regularly. Once every 2 months, I just do a straight up Q&A where you guys just come on and ask me a bunch of questions, which we will do in the last half. But today we do have a special guest. Elizabeth Greene from Junglr is going to be on. She'll tell you a little bit more about herself, but she's actually recently done a blog post for us, which just launched on helium10.com yesterday, and it's all about bulk optimizations. And I asked Elizabeth to come on and share her expertise on that, because to be perfectly honest, that is not something that I really did or have as much expertise in. So I'm going to go ahead and pause my notification since I can hear it in the background. I don't want that to be bothering you guys. So while I do that, for those of you that are brand new, we call this Tacos Tuesday for a reason. It's not just because I like tacos, which I do, especially over COVID. Tacos is a metric that we like to talk about in different areas, but it's specifically a metric that we use in our PPC management tool called Atomic. And tacos is simply an extension of your ACOS. So if you guys are looking at your ACOS as a measurement of success for your campaigns, we also suggest and encourage you to also look at your total ACOS, because that takes into account not just the PPC sales, but the organic as well as the PPC sales in relation to your PPC spend. As I often share, we do know that PPC is related to your organic sales. And whether it be just the branding effect that happens from your PPC so that shoppers see it over and over again, and that eventually leads to an organic sale, or maybe they search for you by brand name because they've seen your particular product so much. So we do know that there is a connection between PPC visibility, impressions, and PPC sales, total sales, organic sales. So we have made that metric available to you guys in our Atomic tool. You can always do it outside of that tool yourselves. Just look at your business reports, look at what your total sales are in a given period. I always suggest looking at least 2 weeks out, because you've got a 14-day pixel on your sponsored brands and sponsored display campaigns if you're running them. And you can always look at those metrics yourself as well. So that is what we like to talk about here at Tacos Tuesday. We also posted in the comments the link to the blog post that Elizabeth Greene did do for us. If you guys want to check out what that blog post is, we're going to cover that information as well in this session. But if you want like a follow-up refresher, make sure you check out our blog posts. Hopefully you guys are checking out our blog posts regularly. We spend a lot of time and energy producing, what I feel to be really quality content for you all. So I do hope you're checking those out regularly. When I'm writing again, which hopefully is soon, I'm going to be a little bit more proactive about sending those types of things out through the channels, social, maybe even email. So with that said, what's inside this link, Malik, is what I just said. It's just the link to the blog post that our guest speaker is going to be presenting to us. So that said, we also always like to do a little, I guess it's Q&A, depending on if the person is on, we have an email address that you guys can use in case we don't get to your question during one of these sessions. Or maybe after the session, you have an idea or a question that you just didn't think of during this time, or maybe even a topic that you want me to cover. That particular email is ppcama@helium10.com. So that email address, we'll pop it on the screen for you guys. That is for you to send questions ahead of time. If you think of things that you want me to talk about, that is also a place where you can do that. It is specific to PPC, just like what's in the email address. Sometimes I get questions that get filtered through to me that are not related to PPC. So those questions do not get answered. Also, do not expect a reply from this email address. This is an inbox only, and it is here where I will answer those initial questions. So that's what we're going to do. I picked 2 different sets of questions that were emailed to me in the past couple of weeks. So we're going to go ahead and pop those on the screen and answer those questions, and then we'll get into the content. All right, so the first question is from Jonathan. And he basically, it was a pretty long email. He basically explained how he has a lot of different keywords that he had researched, and he wanted to make sure that each set of keywords got enough traffic and enough impressions. So he split them up. But then he also wanted to know how to include those into our rules. So our structure that we have, that we promote in Atomic, as well as if you're not using our tool, is to at least have 4 different types of campaigns. I believe he only listed 3 here, so we'll just talk about those. An automatic campaign, a keyword-based campaign that's broad match, and a keyword-based campaign that is exact match. So in this example, he says that he did do the automatic campaign, but then he has 4 broad match campaigns, and he broke them up by the volume of the search terms or the keywords in those campaigns. So low keyword, low to medium keywords, medium keyword, high keywords. He did the same thing for his exact campaigns. So effectively, he has one auto campaign. Let's just say it's 1 SKU. I'm not quite sure if it is. And then he's got 8 different campaigns based on those particular keywords broken up between broad and exact match. So what you want to do is make sure, again, that the auto campaign is feeding keywords or sourcing keywords for your other campaigns. Now, you could technically, within our rules, have that auto campaign be at the head of that rule set for all of these ad groups. We don't have any limitations for you in our rules. You can have an auto campaign that feeds into tens of campaigns. It's not something that I would suggest, but if you have a particular strategy that you want to implement, you can do that. Now, to answer his question, how would he use the rules and have the keywords from the auto campaign moved into that broader exact if he has the 4 various options? Either you just select a couple of different ones that you want, a couple of different ad groups that you're going to watch, or you just do the standard 1. So that 1 auto campaign is going to feed into one of these broad match keywords campaigns and one of these exact match ad groups. And how I would do that, since basically the auto campaigns are kind of a research-based campaign, I would just direct those into that low volume keyword campaign, so that you're not potentially blowing through budget. That you're going to be going through budget a lot more on your high volume keywords or your medium keywords. This is based, again, on volumes. So I would just feed them into 1. But Again, you can feed them into more than one if you want. So there's not a one size fits all answer to this question, unfortunately, Jonathan. But if you do want direction on how to create those rules so the auto campaign feeds into just one ad group or multiple ad groups, go to our pro trainings in Atomic and look at the videos that I've created for new keywords and the videos that I've created for negative keywords, and hopefully that will help clarify this question for you. All right, so we've got one more, but it's broken up into two different questions. And actually, this was broken up into three. So Alex, the first part of this question, Alex lives in Spain. He was asking if we could do, what's it called, closed captions on these videos. Unfortunately, doing closed captions in real time is not possible. But I do believe that if you watch our YouTube channel, which all of these are filmed and uploaded into, then you can turn on captions in whatever language you want once you're watching on YouTube. That is something I still actually need to follow up on. I was going to do that before this episode, but so if listening to me right now in my English is difficult, you might want to just not watch them live, just watch them after the fact in the playlist, which we'll put a link to that playlist as well, and you can watch them at your own speed, maybe slow them down or increase them as needed. So let me go ahead and answer the question. And I don't know if Alex is the same Alex that this question on. I see there's an Alex here, Alex Personal. So let me get to this question, and then I'll look really quickly to see if there's any questions related to this before going on. So number one is Alex asked about KDP. And unfortunately, our tool only works right now currently for sellers and vendors. So it does not work with KDP, but we do have plans to make the functionality of Atomic available for KDP, for publishers. I just don't have a timeline on that. So I did want to let you know that we got that question. We are working on it, but I don't have a timeline yet. As soon as I do have a timeline, I'll probably maybe even announce it in one of these sessions. So the second question, also related to the book that Alex is working on. Basically, he says that he gets $9. That's his sale. That's his benefit. This is what he earns if he makes one sale. So if a keyword or search term reaches $10 but has no sale, this keyword or search term I want to pause. So before I finish this question, answering this question, I want to make this very, very clear. Don't ever put keyword and search term reaches in the $10. Don't ever put those together. They're two completely different things. Keywords are the things you're bidding on, and search terms are the things that people are searching on, right? So I always like to go with negating search terms over just completely turning off a particular keyword. So that is one thing that I want to make clear is that if you have a search term that has spent $10 and no sales, and you're only getting $9 if you make a sale, obviously that search term is something that you want to negate. So that is something that you do want to make negative. You could do it in the tool. You could also do that manually. That is something that you do want to make negative. If it's a keyword that has spent $10 and you only make $9 if you make a sale, yeah, that's also something you probably want to turn off. And you could either also negate that keyword, but what you'd want to do is only pause it is if it's exact. If it's an exact match keyword that is spent $9 or $10 with no sales, that is something that you do want to pause. Otherwise, if it's a phrase match or broad match keyword, you want to look at the search terms. You want to be making sure you're verifying that the search term is what's causing the waste. So I just want to make that point clear that keyword and search terms, putting them in the same sentence like that, I want to make sure that you know that they're not the same, and the way that you treat them then is not the same. So my question is there a rule to automate this process? Yes, there is. Go into our pro trainings for Atomic and look up, again, the rules. There's a video on new keyword creation, and there is a video on negative keyword creation as well. All right, so that is our pre-questions that we did get, again, from our PPC AMA at helium10.com email. As we go through this session, if you have any I'm going to introduce Elizabeth shortly. If you have questions that are relevant to what she's going to talk about, make sure you put them in the comment section here. Alex says, yes, that was him. So good to see you, Alex. I answered his questions ahead of time. So for those of you that are curious about that email address, we do actually get them to you guys the answers eventually. So I do see some other questions here, but what I want to do first is, again, just go and talk about bulk optimizations. There might be some additional questions you guys have about that. When it comes to optimizing your PPC campaigns. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Elizabeth Greene for that. And then we're going to go through and look through the questions again for the whatever balance of the session is today until the end of the hour. So let's introduce Elizabeth.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. Super stoked to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Where are you tuning in from? I think I forgot to ask you that.
I am in Central Florida.
Okay.
So nice and sunny outside.
Nice. It's pretty sunny here too. But
that's right. You're also in a sunny state. We don't have a monopoly on sun.
Yes. Forget that sometimes. So awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the session.
Yeah, of course.
So tell us a little bit about yourself for those who may not be familiar with who you are.
Yes. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Elizabeth Greene, and I am one of the co-founders of an Amazon advertising agency called Junglr. So my shirt.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm backwards. So yeah.
I can read it. I can read it for. Are you mirrored? Maybe sometimes that happens.
Yes. So I went to go unveil it, and I'm like, wait, no, that's the wrong direction.
That's funny. So, how long have you been doing PPC as working with clients?
Yeah, so it's been a while. As far as an agency, we have been. Let's see, we're going on 3 years now. I should probably do the math on that, but yeah.
That's great. So Elizabeth and I got introduced by our now CTO. I think his title keeps changing. Boyan. How did that come about? How did you get that introduction to Boyan?
It's one of those. I knew a guy who said you should talk to this person, so I talked to that person. They're like, you should talk to this person. I'm like, all right, I'll just keep talking to people, and somehow I ended up here. So I guess it worked out.
So
I think the end of it was a consultant that works with one of our clients who had experience with us, and then so that's what started the chain reaction.
Got it. Okay, cool, awesome. So when Elizabeth and I talked, the area that she knows very well is the bulk optimizations portion of campaign management. And I'm assuming that's how you manage maybe a lot of your different accounts and different clients.
Yeah. So we do a lot through bulk operations. I always say I think there's some amazing tools out there like Atomic, and there's some things that maybe are streamlined through Atomic, but the benefit of bulk files is because it's married with spreadsheets, which a lot of people, spreadsheets are just, they're obnoxious, they're tedious. I'm one of the people who really enough find spreadsheets fun. And so if you you start to understand the capabilities of spreadsheets, and then you can bring that to bulk files, that's where you can do some really interesting stuff, and you can actually build out customized tools very quickly with spreadsheets and test things, and then maybe migrate that onto some sort of automated system.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely not one of those people that like spreadsheets, so that's probably why I never got into doing bulk optimizations, and instead I just created a Atomic. And
there you go.
Ads first, but then Atomic. But again, for people that don't use our tool or don't use any tool at all, I know we have a lot of newer sellers on this that come to learn about PPC. So I like to have people on that are going to help you guys out with optimizations that have nothing to do with even touching a tool. So why don't we just jump in? I know you've got some information to share, so why don't we just dive into that?
Okay, cool. So did you want to do the screen share with the spreadsheet now?
Go ahead and do the screen share.
Cool. That will work. And I think I won't be able to see you, so you'll just have to talk me through it, or
That's fine.
tell
No
me if
worries.
there's a question.
Okay, I can do that.
So for those of you who have not seen the blog post and have never seen a bulk file before, you may be wondering, like, what is this? So in essence, it's a spreadsheet, and then each individual tab is going to show you, you could say, like a different level. So there's portfolios, which isn't going to look very interesting. The tab we're going to be dealing with today, and the one that I go over in the blog post, is the sponsored product campaigns tab. So as you can imagine, the name sponsored product campaigns. So what we're going to be looking at is the sponsored product campaigns.
Can you quickly
yeah.
explain how you even got this report within Seller
Let's
Central?
go through that. So I'm just going to pull up the blog post because I think
so
that'll
this
be
is
the
blog
easiest
post
way
that
just
you
to
did
show.
for us yesterday, guys. This is what's launched.
So if you go into your campaign manager and you know that little pop out on the left, you'll see this little button that says bulk operations. So you'll just go in there and you should come up with a screen, which we're just showing a section on the screen, but you're going to see this header, create and download custom spreadsheet, and you can pick a date range. It goes through some important tips here. This is one thing that's very important. See this one right here. Number 2, don't forget this step. You want to make sure you're unchecking this little button. But if you follow this, step by step, it's going to show you exactly how to download the spreadsheet.
Now, what happens if you don't do that? Uncheck the box.
So if you don't do this, any items within your account that have not gotten a single impression within whatever date range you set. So for instance, if I went up here and said, I want the last 30 days, no impressions within the last 30 days is not going to be included in my spreadsheet.
Okay.
Which means if I want to go through and I want to increase things that have got no impressions in 30 days, I'm not going to be able to see those. So just by unchecking this, and by default, it's checked, become smaller. If they don't have to include all that stuff, it's less burden on them. So by default, it's checked. But if you uncheck it, then you can see everything.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. So what you'll do is select that, uncheck this, and then this little create spreadsheet for download, you'll click it. It will start downloading. So below it, you'll see this downloads, and then you'll see the new file that you just requested. It'll say generating. It'll say it'll take up to 15 minutes. It doesn't always take that long, depending on how much data they have to pull from their servers and shove in a spreadsheet for you to be able to download. That will determine how long it takes. So if you don't have that many campaigns, it should be kind of instant. If you don't see this, I'm not patient, so I hit refresh a million times and then wait for this little blue download to get there. But it'll get there eventually, and then once that you see this download button, you click, it's going to download to your computer, and then you can open it up in whatever spreadsheet software you want. I'm using Google Sheets right now. You might want to use Excel if you're more familiar. Either will do.
I love Google Sheets, so.
Yes, I do. The only thing is, if you have a massive account, you will not be able to open it up in Google Sheets because of the cell limitations. So we have certain accounts that can't even use Google Sheets at all. It'll just shut down.
I see. Got it.
So yeah. But yeah, so that's how you would download it. And then I think the most helpful thing for me to walk through, because a lot of this information is included in the blog post, but there are some things that do kind of get a bit technical. So I think by me doing this as a walkthrough, it's particularly these columns that I'm going to talk about. Because if you understand what these columns are, you can you'll be able to navigate this. So we're going to do a very quick and dirty, here's the columns you need to know type walkthrough. So how this works, it's basically, like I say in the blog post, it's a 2D look. It's your entire account shoved into a spreadsheet. So if you know about spreadsheets, you can do filtering, you can sort things, you can do calculations. So that's where it starts to get really cool. But knowing where to find what is going to be the hardest thing in the beginning. So the one column that you should probably familiarize yourself with is this column B, that's record type. So the way this works is each column has a data point or a point of information. And then each row line, think of it as like, you know how you click into your campaign and then you can see a different view and you can see a different view. So you'll have your ads, you'll have where your keywords are. It's sort of like that, but again, it's two-dimensional in a spreadsheet. So this record type B basically will tell you what's contained within this line. So if I see campaign here, I know that everything on this particular row is my campaign data. So see campaign status, which we'll go over. Let's go over status columns. So we have our record type that we want to know. Let's see what else I did. Yeah, so then we have the campaign or the campaign name, and these have been changed. You're going to see like campaign 1, campaign 2, because this is an actual bulk sheet, but I can't include client data, so everything's been changed. But if this had like a name that you could actually figure out what it is, then you would see the campaign name right here. Now there is an ad group name, but remember this is a campaign row, so we don't have the ad group at the campaign row. But if it was an ad group name.
Just real quick, Elizabeth, we had a request is if you could zoom in. Could you zoom in to
let's see if I can zoom in.
Yeah, your whole screen should be able to zoom in.
Right, I'm trying to remember the hotkey for that. I know there is a hotkey. Hold on. When I'm on live, I go blank.
That's okay. I think it might even just be on this sheet, right? Under view.
Yes, let's see if we can do view. Zoom. Go. Okay. Good point. All right. So let's go through the campaign. Yeah. So here we have the campaign name, the ad group name. So if there was an ad group name, it would be there. Notice how there's other things under record type. Excuse me. If I expand it, so you'll have campaign, you'll see ad group. So this is our ad group row. So because it is an ad group, we have the ad group name here. And there's some other information there. Let's see what else we do. So the max bid column. So this is going to be important. We're going through changing bids right now. There's 6,010,000 different things you can think of to do with a bulk file. But for right now, I think the easiest and the best way to just kind of get into them is through a bid change. Because once you understand this basic structure, it's very easy to change bids. So your bids will be found under this max bid column. So right here, because this is my ad group row, this is like what we refer to as your default bid. So if you go into your ad group inside a campaign manager, you'll actually see a default bid. You're required to input one when you create the campaign. So that's what you're seeing here.
Got it.
Let's see.
And does that max bid correlate to the ad groups that are below that? Since it's kind of just out there by itself?
It can, but not always.
Okay.
So it's very similar. So, you know, when you go in campaign manager, you can have your ad group bid. And if you go down into targeting, your keywords might have the same bid as your ad group, but they might be different. And then even if they are the same, once you change them, they're always, you know, they're not like connected anymore.
Sure.
Very similar.
Got it. So we would see the 188 if that keyword was just stuck at set at the default bid rate.
Yes. And we will go through that because that's one of the things that's super, super obnoxious with bulk files, kind of a formatting thing. So we'll discuss that in depth in a second. The other thing is keyword and product targeting. So this is what you're actually bidding on. So we have keyword and product targeting. Notice these ones say negatives. You can add negatives. There's a whole thing, you know, those will be contained in the campaign. We don't really need to worry about those because you can't bid on negatives. But right here, you'll see keywords. And then notice how there's different bids here. This is our max bid column.
Got it.
So this is where you can, of course, if this didn't just say keyword, if it was your actual keyword, you could say, okay, so in this campaign, in this ad group, I have this keyword. And then the other one is the match type right here. So this is an exact match. Here's my bid. And so you could, again, if you can do this inside a campaign manager, go into the ad group, find the targeting. But where it becomes tedious is like, oh, okay, now I have to go out and check this campaign. Now I want to go check this campaign. I could just scroll down and say, all right, so what's my next campaign? Campaign 6. What am I doing?
So it's clear that where it says keyword, there would actually technically be a keyword there. You just kind of change just the keyword so that your client's keywords aren't on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I wanted to take more time, I would probably go through and like actually type in generic keywords, but this
No,
is
that's fine. I just
a
wanted
pretty
the
large file.
viewers,
So
yeah, I wanted the viewers to know that that keyword column would actually
yes,
have your keywords in it. It wouldn't just say keyword.
yes, definitely. And then, so the last couple columns I'm going to go over is these 3 status columns right here. Again, if we're looking at rows, and I think it'll be easier if I freeze up to the current column, so then you all can see what I'm talking about when I'm looking at this column as well.
Mhm.
But if I go over here to status, campaign status, notice on this row, because again, whatever the record type says is what's contained within this row. So this is archived. So I know, all right, this campaign's archived. I can go to this campaign. This one's enabled. Enabled is it's running. If you say paused, it means that the campaign's paused. So instead of saying, what does it say in campaign manager? It says delivering and paused. It says enabled and paused in a bulk file. So slightly different, same thing. And then same for the ad group status. So, this campaign is enabled and the ad group status is also enabled. You might see enabled, paused here, or on a keyword row, you might see enabled, paused. So this status column is referring to the keyword or the product targeting. This ad group status is referring to the ad group, and then this campaign status is referring to the campaign. So it's like the couple different levels of it.
All right.
Yep. And then the last columns that will be helpful to know, and these will be very similar to what you see in Campaign Manager. When you go in, you'll see impressions, clicks, spend, orders. All of these should be relatively self-explanatory, but again, depending on what is contained within the record type, will kind of show like what the numbers are on that level. So this keyword has 0 impressions, 0 clicks, 0 spend, and everything across the board. We can scroll down, maybe we can find, I know there's keywords in here with actual data on them. We can find one. Let's see. So this keyword has impressions, clicks, and spend on it. No orders and ACOS. We'll go through like optimizations and stuff in a bit. But you can see on each level how a keyword's doing.
Right. Cool.
Yep. So those are the basic columns that are helpful. Let's see if I can. It's not going to let me do that.
Move it back.
Yeah. It's trying to like. Oh. No. Oh, well. Anyways, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the sorting filters that I go through. No, let's go through the formatting issues. Fun. So there are 2 formatting issues you should know when dealing with bulk files. Once you figure out what they are and how to troubleshoot them, you can fix them very quickly. Shouldn't be an issue. To be honest, they are much easier in Google Sheets than they are in Excel. But I do go through troubleshooting in Excel as well. So the issues are that all of these numbers are formatted as text. So notice how these ones align to the left-hand side. If you're inside any spreadsheet, if something is on the left-hand side in a cell, it is a text value. If it's on the right-hand side, it is a number or numeric value.
I never knew that.
Yes, pro tip. Hopefully I can give you a couple pro tips. But the problem that comes in, if this is a text value, it will not sort correctly. So one thing you might want to do after we apply the filters we're going to apply is say, all right, so what keywords in my account have the highest ACOS? And maybe I want to adjust those. If I do not fix this formatting issue, when I go to sort them, they're not going to sort correctly. And it's just going to be frustrating. So I'm going to show you how to deal with that and how to fix it. So all you're going to do is you are going to select all of these columns. The easiest way to do that is to select the first column, and then if you hold Shift on your keyboard and then you click the very last column you want, that will highlight all of your columns. And then you can go up here to this button and you can click number, and this will format them as a number. And then if you want to
they all write, they write justified.
Yep. See how they changed? Yep. So we know they're numbers. And then if you would like to make this a little bit cleaner, which is what I personally like to do, I like to see the spend in a dollar amount and a cost in a percentage. And I like to just get rid of these decimals. Personal preference, you don't have to. So what I'll do is select the two spend columns. The easiest way to do that is you click this one and then hold Control on the keyboard, and then that will highlight, and then click on this column, and you can just go up to here to this format as currency, click that, dollar amount, ACoS column, percentage, and then we can highlight. Again, I'm holding Control on my keyboard and then just selecting which numbers I want to get rid of the decimals, and then over here, decrease decimal places, I can just hit this twice, and then it's done.
All right.
So it
cleans it up. It cleans it up.
Yes. So it cleans it up. And the very last one over here is going to be our max bid column. And because we only have one, and we probably want this formatted as $1, the easiest way to do this is just to click this one and then just hit the format as currency. We don't even have to do the whole number thing and then back.
I see.
Yep. So
there's a currency button. If you know it's just currency, you can use the currency button. If it's just a digit, you want to use the other method.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So most of our optimizations, I'm going to assume, are going to be sorted by ACoS. You probably want to take care of those quickly. I wanted to know. Well, actually, there was a question from Mohammed. I don't know if you can pop that up, Sydney. He says that there's no tacos column here. Is that important too? So tacos is a metric from Atomic, right? So this is why we talk about it. But your tacos metric is only going to be visible if you have organic sales as well. This report that we're looking at is from Amazon, from Seller Central. They don't have any of those metrics. So yes, tacos is important, but for sake of what we're talking about here, you're only going to have access to ACoS because this data is based on PPC spend and PPC sales only, no organic data at all. But good question, Mohammed.
Yes, very good question. So do you all calculate ACoS on a keyword level, or is it an account level?
Typically both. Yeah, we calculate on keyword level and as well as campaign level. Product level, basically. That's the only
product
way
level.
do it. Yeah, because tacos is, again, since it's an organic sales metric, it's not linked to a campaign at all, which is another reason why you're not going to see that data here, Mohammed, is because organic sales aren't linked to campaigns. This is campaign data. So there's no way to link that. So the only way to look at tacos is at an entire account level. So super high level, these are all my PPC sales in the account. These are all my organic sales in the account, right? Or you can look at product level. This is my product. This is how much I've spent on PPC campaign spend. This is how much I made on PPC. But in total for last month, organically, I also made this many sales. So that that's why tacos is only a metric that you can currently see in our platform in two different levels. One in the dashboard at the high level, and then one at just the product level itself.
Yeah, so this, just exactly what Vin said. This is only going to be looking at your ads. And if you want to look at tacos, you have to factor in the total sales, which is not something you get in this report. Vince did go over in the beginning, if you want to manually calculate that number, what you would do, and I wouldn't even use this report, I would go into Campaign Manager and you want to select whatever date range you want to check. And then you would look at the PPC spend for that and then go into your business report. And then you would look at the total sales, make sure you're looking at the same date ranges. And then Vince also made a very good point on there is somewhat of a data delay, especially on sales. Sales have the most data delay inside of the ads. So you want to make sure, you're leaving enough leeway for that, but look at the two date ranges. You just take those two numbers and it's a division problem, ad spend divided by total sales. But the cool thing with Atomic is not only can you see it on an account level, if you can look at it at a product level, to be honest, you could probably get those numbers and calculate them, but it would be very complex and would require at least 4 different reports to be aggregated together. And then with reports, you have to download them and you're only looking at specific date ranges, where if you have a tool like Atomic, you can quickly select different date ranges. Hard lifting is done for you via the API. So that's probably the best bet if you want to do a lot of comparisons.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. So let's go through how to find the high ACoS keywords in this report. So what we're going to do is we are going to click create a filter here. So remember when I said record type has different levels we're looking at? So what we want to do is we want to condense this report to only look at all of our keywords that are active in the account. So let's go through those particular filters, and these are gone through in the post as well, so you can go through that. So what you want to do, the easiest way for me to do this is just to click clear and then only select these two. Again, it'll be slightly different Excel, but the same exact principles apply. You want to select a filter that only looks at keywords and product targeting. Then what you would want to do is go over to the status column. So remember I said this tells you if it's active or not. So we can't adjust things. Well, you shouldn't be adjusting things on pause stuff. Right. So what I do is I go to campaign status. I would uncheck paused. I would go to ad group status. And then I would, sometimes you'll see a blank. So you just click clear and then click only enabled, or just uncheck either of these. But we only want enabled here. And then under status, we only want enabled. So this will give us everything we need. And then there's one extra thing to do under match type, because this will include negative keywords, and you don't adjust bids on negative keywords. So we can just go through here and get rid of everything with that just shows negative in the front. So you might see negative targeting expression. You might see campaign negatives, just anything that contains a negative, and then click OK. And then we are looking at everything in our account that is currently running and is only at the keyword. And then product targeting is either like ASIN targeting, categories, or that includes the autos, exact, brazen, fraud. Fraud. Okay. Phrase and broad.
Phrase and broad. Fraud.
Yes.
I've never combined those.
No, we love broad. We love broad match.
Yeah, we love broad.
All right, so then now that we have everything condensed, and because we fixed that filtering or that formatting issue, what I can do, because I have filters here, you can also sort things, which is awesome. So if I go to the ACOS column and I sort Z to A, this brings to the top everything with my high ACOS. So I said, all right, I got these puppies here with very high ACOS and only a couple orders. I probably want to look at decreasing those bits.
Right.
So what you would do is you just start analyzing. Remember, these columns include like the data or how something is performing. So you say, okay, based on this particular performance, I would then go over here to my max bid column, because remember, this is where my bids are. And then I would start adjusting. And of course, if you weren't zoomed in, you could probably just quickly glance across the thing instead of having to go back and forth. But then you could just change the bids. So this bid is pretty low, so I might have already adjusted it. I don't know how complicated you want me to get. So I can do a pro tip.
For that top one, that's over what, 286 ACOS. You can also see, was that a broad match keyword?
That was, yes.
Oh, okay, it was broad. Okay, so if that happened to be exact, or even if, I mean, that's a really high ACOS. I don't know what time period you're looking at, but I'm assuming you can also pause keywords in your bulk sheets too.
Yes, so that is not something I went over in the blog post, but that is something I'll show you now. So remember, and then I probably will give another pro tip here. So one pro tip that with bulk files that I don't know if a lot of people talk about is notice these header columns. And this is kind of where we're saying like what's contained within, remember I said like depending on what the header columns are, we'll tell Amazon like what's contained within that column.
Yeah.
Well, if I go here and I insert one right and I create a new column, if I do not have a header on this column and I enter anything within this thing right here, this particular column, if I re-upload this file, so we'll go over how to actually make changes. It's included in the blog post. Basically, you make whatever changes you want, then you take whatever data it is you want to change. It needs to be contained within a spreadsheet, and then you can take that spreadsheet and you re-upload that to Amazon, and then whatever changes you've made will be made inside Campaign Manager. But if I have columns right here that I don't have a header on, these will be ignored. It's almost like they're not even there. So if I wanted to say, keep a record of my old bids, so I'm like, all right, these are all the ones I want to change. but I might want to know what my old bids are in case I want to go back and reference this. So the other beauty of spreadsheets is you, by default, have like a record of what you did.
Right.
So if I want to keep, have this spreadsheet archived somewhere in a folder, and if I were like, okay, last Tuesday I made bid adjustments, and you want to go poke and see like what I did, if you start keeping records of things, and I might go through color coding as well. You can also color code things, and that won't change anything in your upload. So if you decide, a very, I say, simple way of doing color coding would be if anything that I lowered, I wanted to put red, and you can choose. I like a little less obnoxious shade of red, but that's just me. You can do whatever you want.
Anything you increase will be green.
Yes. So I like doing that because what I will do oftentimes is if I have green and red, at the very end of my optimizations, when I've gotten through everything and I decided what I want to do, what I'll do is I will sort things by spend. And then I'll just take a look at my color coding. And I can see out of my highest, like, if something has a lot of spend, or you might also want to sort by sales. That's another one I do, actually, is sorting by sales. So the higher amount of sales that a particular keyword has in your account, the higher, would you say, like the ratio, or the more influence, I guess you could say, that keyword has on your account. So if I have a high amount of sales and I lose a good chunk of my sales due to me just dropping the bids drastically, oftentimes I can create a negative effect on the account. I'm not saying you don't want to decrease bids on high sale keywords. I'm just saying you want to kind of be careful. So what I like about the color coding is
I would add to that, not only look at the sale aspect, but also look at the impressions.
Yes.
Right. If you've got a really high impression keyword, and maybe the ACOS isn't ideal, but if you got a super high impression keyword and the ACOS is manageable, it's not good, but it's livable, or you can sustain it. If it's a super high impression keyword, keep it, because that means a lot of eyeballs are seeing your particular product. And this goes into what I was saying again before about how PPC helping with your organic sales. The more times your product is seen on an ad, it's going to increase that. So we're getting a little bit in the weeds, but I also do like to look, when I'm optimizing manually like this, what is the sales, what's the ACOS, but also what's the impression, how many, if these are the highest impressions keywords that I have in my entire data set, I'm going to be a lot more conservative with reducing the bids on those. Yep,
absolutely. So you could easily just go up here, sort by Z to A. What are the high impressions? So that's a very good point as well. So that's, I guess you could say, that's kind of why I like the color coding, because it makes it very quick to see what I've raised and lowered. So if I sort by sales or impressions, and then all of a sudden I realize all of my top keywords I've reduced significantly, maybe I want to go through and just strategically rethink that, or, at the very least, if I decide, nope, I absolutely need to bring down things, I need to lower spend in my account, and that's what I've chosen to do, that's fine. But at least you're aware of potentially what could result in the account. It gives you, I like it as a visual.
Yeah, it gives you the data, so that you can reference at a later time. So for those so you just would leave that header column blank, basically.
Yes. And another good tip that I just realized that would create an issue for me, and I've done this before and grumbled about it, is notice over here where you could see this little filter button, and see how this green arrow goes over here. What happened, so let me sort by ACOS again. What happened was where I pasted these values was outside of my filter. So when I sort again, notice if I sort, what should happen is this old bid is associated with this row. But if I sort it again, notice how these things don't change, which is the problem. Yeah. So what you would want to do is you could unapply the filter and then you could reapply, and then it should show that, and then you would have to go through again and just do all of your record types and stuff. You would do the same filters.
Basically, make sure you're applying filters to
yes.
the new columns that you're adding.
Mm-hmm. And then the other pro tip that if you're not really familiar with Excel, which is super, super obnoxious, is that you cannot paste things over filtered cells in Excel. Like for instance, if I had all of this stuff, like I'm eliminating some of the rows here, I'm just not visually seeing them. What Excel does is if you paste something, it just kind of pushes it down the row, even if they're hidden. So we won't end up on the same rows. So to get rid of that, probably an easier thing to do if you want to keep a record of your max bid would be to simply go to this max bid column. Like if I eliminated all of my filters and I went to my max bid column and I just hit Control C, and I'm just copying like the entire column. It can take a second. And then you could just go over here at the top. Let me see. I would just do Control V. So I'm just going to keep everything. And then you would just backspace, just get rid of that value there. So it's blank. So then you don't have to worry about, oh, wait, did I filter this one over? And it's, you know, if it messed up, you could just do that from the beginning and then go through and where we did the record type, enabled, paused, all of that stuff. You could quickly get through that stuff.
Nice.
And you wouldn't have to worry about all that. All right. Are there any other things you think or optimization things we should be going through?
Well, yeah, I mean, there is quite a different few. Why don't you just list off the other things you do besides keyword bidding? What are the other things that you can, you don't have to show us, but what are the other things that you can do bulk optimization wise so that the listeners know what they could also use this for?
Yes. So to be honest, at least with sponsored products, virtually everything you can do inside of Campaign Manager can be done through bulk files, with the exception of renaming campaigns. Unfortunately, I get that question all the time. I wish it would be so much easier. Please, Amazon. But as of right now, you can't quickly go through and rename stuff. So other than that, so if you think about it, you can do campaign creation, you can add negatives, you can, can you pause things. I want to say, I know I tested that. I think you can. I'm pretty sure you can. Pretty much everything you can think of, and even the things they tell you can't do, but I still wanted to test them, I've tested.
Got it.
So if I don't remember, you probably message me and I'll find you the answer. I do believe so, but I'm not going to say definitively yes because I want to run a test.
No worries. I just wanted to put you on the hot seat real quick.
Yeah, there you go. The one I don't know.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Elizabeth about bulk optimizations? Put them in the chat now. We do have a couple of questions that we did get earlier in the session that I want to kind of go back to. So if you guys don't have any questions right now about this, why don't we pop up Jake's first question, Sydney? It's way at the top. And then we've got one from Wasif that I wanted to go through. So, and Elizabeth, feel free to chime in on this. What are your thoughts about having negative suggestions enabled on exact match campaigns, keeping in mind an exact match includes close variations of the keyword and plural forms of the keyword? So what he's asking is kind of specific to Atomic. What Atomic does is it does give negative suggestions based on performance of search terms. So this is kind of a little bit of a convoluted question in that if you've got exact match campaigns, those keywords are going to be the exact same thing the person's typing in, right? With the exception of plurals. You don't need to do plurals when you're doing exact match keywords. You don't need the plural. Amazon will do that for you automatically if you guys don't know. So a lot of people like to bid on both things like crutch and crutches. You don't need to. Amazon will cover that. So if you've got an exact match campaign in a rule, and that rule is for negative keywords. Negative keywords, again, is only looking at search terms because that's what you can make negative. You can't make keyword negative. So my thoughts are on it, Jake, is that it's kind of you're effectively making a pause or unpause keyword rule. So you're taking a negative keyword rule, which relates to search terms, but you're turning it into a rule that's going to pause or it's going to effectively pause that keyword in the exact match campaign. So if you want to do that, you can. Personally, I like to avoid things that pause the keywords. I like to work on what is the search term, even if it's the exact same thing as the exact keyword. You can still work on isolating that, or maybe even just reducing the bids. For exact match keywords, I like to reduce bids. Unless it's really bad, you have a lot of data and it hasn't performed, and yeah, make it a negative. But when it comes to a rule, which is more of an automated thing, especially in our system, I would say that you don't need to have an exact match campaign in a negative rule, which is why in our tool, when you create a campaign in our tool, we don't include the exact match performance. We call it a performance campaign. We don't include that in the negative rule because, again, the search term matches the keyword. So we don't want to necessarily negate that search term because effectively you're just turning off that keyword. So
yeah, I would definitely agree with that assessment. I think one other point to add in favor of not doing that would be if you add the negative, which, as Vince said, is effectively pausing the keyword. But what's going to happen is inside Campaign Manager or inside whatever tool you're using, that keyword is still going to show active. So
yes.
It's effectively paused, but what probably will end up happening is 2 months later, you're probably going to go through and say, what do I have low impressions on, or what do I need to raise? And you'll go through and you'll try and raise that bid, and it's like not getting impressions. And eventually, hopefully you can dig down to the fact that you added the negative, but it's difficult to find and it's tedious where, like Vin said, if something is not working, there is options for pause rules. So I would just utilize those.
On that note, so even in our tool, even if you never looked at that again, what Atomic would do, it would look at that keyword and it would see that it's not getting any impressions. So it would probably just tell you to keep increasing the increasing the bid on that exact match keyword, even though you're not ever going to get impressions to it because you negated the search term for it. So it's even doing more work for the tool, which is unnecessary. So yeah, in short, don't have exact match keywords in a negative rule. All right, we have next question from I think it's Wasif. I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. If you find a search term that is doing well in a broad match campaign, do you put the same keyword as a negative exact in the broad match and add it as an exact keyword in exact match campaign? Do you think I should use the strategy? As some people disagree with the above strategy, I don't know what to do. So this is the whole argument, Elizabeth, and you can tell us where you stand on doing search term isolation or not doing search term isolation. What is your initial thought?
So my stance is no, because I had a very adverse reaction when I tested this strategy, which I actually did. It was a whole podcast episode I did on Ad Badger dedicated to
Oh, really?
what I had, and I might have a bit of a traumatic experience with this. So my stance is I get the logic. And I agree that there is benefits to being able to very strategically control your ad spend. My opposition to this is that I have noticed that sometimes the performance results, even though the logic dictates that this would be the ideal, on the flip side, performance results in cutting off or stifling or suppressing something that has previous good results sometimes will result in an overall negative effect on the account. So I think with everything, there's going to be pros and cons. And so you have to figure out what makes sense for you.
So my stance on this, and I go back and forth on this as well, Asif, so you're not alone. Really, in my opinion, whenever you move a search term, let's say out of the auto campaign, and you make it a manual campaign, a manual keyword in a research campaign, or even in your example, a search term from a broad keyword into an exact match campaign, you're always going to, number one, you're going to pay more, right? Because as soon as you isolate the keyword more, the CPCs go up. So the only reason really that you want to focus on search term isolation is if you have a lot of volume. If you're doing thousands of dollars, if you're spending thousands of dollars a day in PPC, then yeah, then you want to do search term isolation because you're really trying to manage that budget for those search terms, right? For those keywords. If you're not doing thousands of dollars a day in PPC spend, don't worry about it. Do the movement of the keyword from that auto to the research, or the research to the performance campaign. But also just keep it in the campaign that it came from. It's not broken. You don't need to fix it. It's only when you truly are dealing with lots of budget spend, that's when you want control. And that's what search term isolation is for, is trying to number one, is try to put control on the Amazon algorithm, which is always a challenge. So you're likely only going to be able to do that if you have a lot of volume. And that's where you would want to do that. That's my opinion on it.
Okay, it's nice to know we're aligned. I never know.
Yeah, no.
Some people do very well with it. I say if you're going to do it, you have to like stick to it, and you know that be your. I don't think there's more than one way to do something, but I agree with you that it is hard sometimes when you try and tightly control things. It doesn't always work out so well on the ad platform.
If you try to place too much control on Amazon, it can backfire sometimes. And so the reason that I'm saying only worry about it when you're spending thousands of dollars is because that's when you actually do have potentially some sway over the algorithm, because there's a lot of data there, right? And that you're able to actually track, oh, I'm isolating these search terms, and then now it's in this keyword campaign. I can effectively track that performance. But until you're at that super high volume level, then I actually really would not worry about it. So it's 11:02. Do you have time for at least one more question?
Yeah, no, I got time.
Let's do Miguel's question at the bottom. How do you avoid messing with campaigns that are sacrificing ACoS for organic positioning? You still need to stop and check each and every single line, right? So number one, you really can only make this statement, Miguel, if you are tracking your tacos. So I'm assuming you're using a tool like Atomic, or you're going through and doing all the report collecting like Elizabeth mentioned. So really the goal is, the easier way to do this is just look at your tacos. If your tacos is over, let's say 10%, 10 to 15%, that's when you really have to start worrying about your that particular keyword, sacrificing spend, sacrificing ACoS. So if you know what your organic positioning is, and you know that your total ACoS is it's not super high, then you're okay. Now, if your tacos is really, really high, and you're also kind of not really sure how that keyword's going to do, then that's maybe when you want to start working on addressing that keyword and lowering the bid. If you're just using, you can use Keyword Tracker, which is another Helium 10 tool, to always see where your organic position is as well for a set amount of keywords. I know it's not all keywords, but really it's up to you. If you've got high organic positioning, then maybe you don't want to spend so much on the PPC. What do you think, Elizabeth?
Yeah. So I think you're right, and definitely we use Keyword Tracker and Helium 10 for our agency and clients as well. So it's a great tool. I preach a lot. If you are spending money on something, you should be measuring how effective it is. So I agree, tacos, and with Atomic, you can get tacos on a product level, which will be even more a better indication on that particular product, how effective your ads are being. So I think that's like a really good thing to do. I think I can help you out a little bit as well, because I think you're referring to in the bulk file, how would you identify if like something or a particular keyword is very important. So in the beginning, when I said like this file has been renamed, so you're going to see campaign 1 and campaign 2. The more you dig into ads and the more you start looking at different reports, the more important your naming structure is going to be. So you'll hear a lot of Amazon advertisers preach, have good, consistent naming structure, be organized. And it's not just because we like everything in nice folders, it's because it's practical. So if you can go through and put some sort of tag or naming specific thing on your campaigns that you're being, maybe careful of, or you have specific ranking campaigns. For instance, if you just go through on all of your ranking campaigns today and just put a tag ranking, then you have that indicator. And then because you can sort and filter, if you go back into your campaign, I can actually share my screen. And if you went into this, let's see if I can make it go over.
Miguel says that makes sense.
Yeah, so you could just go into your campaign name right here. So this campaign, again, it wouldn't have like campaign 1, campaign 2, but you could, for instance, if it was ranking, I'm just hitting clear and you can actually search for, again, there's no ranking. So if I just had like campaign, let's see, I knew campaign 11 was my ranking campaign, then I could just see everything within that campaign. Or you could choose not to see that. So you say, I don't even want to adjust everything on campaign. You would just uncheck it. So then you wouldn't even see it. And you could go through and check. And again, color coding. So if you have particular campaigns, if you want to spend the time, it might be too much work. But if you had particular things, you could actually go through and say, okay, so these campaigns are green. These campaigns are going to be purple. I mean, you can do all kinds of interesting things. Oops. So let me stop sharing to organize. And that should help you out a little bit. So yeah. Campaign naming is your answer.
Awesome. All right, real quickly. Inger, I do see your questions. Unfortunately, your questions are too broad. You need to ask specific questions. So the last question that we will answer here is from Shees, and it is, how long would Amazon take to implement these changes once that bulk file is uploaded?
Yeah, so once you upload the file, I believe it displays on there. Sometimes they change the times it can take up to, I want to say it was like 4 hours last time I did one. It shouldn't take that long. Honestly, sometimes the changes are done within a couple of minutes. But I think I put in the blog post, it is good practice if you have a couple changes to like probably wait 15 minutes or so and then go and say, all right, so here's what my bid should be. Let me go check that campaign, ad group, that particular keyword, make sure it actually happened. If one of those happened, all of them should happen.
Awesome. All right. So, no, Jake, we will not touch base on your follow-up question. Now, if you guys want to reach out to Elizabeth, how do they reach you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so it depends on how you want to get a hold of me. If you just want to follow content, LinkedIn is probably the best place. I post the most tips and information there. I'm also pretty active on Facebook, not as much. And then if they're interested in working with us, the best way to do that would be to go to our website. There's a little form at the bottom. I'm still doing the intake, so I just took 2 consultation calls this morning. So if you're interested, you can fill out that form. You'll get directly in touch with me, and then we can go through and see how we can help. And Perfect. The website is Junglr, Junglr.com.
Junglr.com. Perfect. Yeah. And so thank you, Elizabeth, for being here. Appreciate it. And if you guys do have any, if you want to follow up with her, feel free to do so. But again, there's a blog post that came out yesterday that went over how to do all these optimizations and blog files for just for keyword bids. So let's pop that. So that's the, if you want an overview of that in written form, go there. It's in the blog. There's a lot of content there. And yeah, hopefully we'll have you on again soon for another topic, Elizabeth.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, perfect. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. I will be on here with another guest, an internal guest in 2 weeks, and we're going to go over a new feature in Atomic that really drills down deeper into your search terms So make sure you guys come here for that. And again, if you have any questions that we didn't answer, please make sure they're specific. If they're too broad or vague, we're not going to be able to get to them. They have to be specific questions related to PPC. Send those over to ppcam@helium10.com, or any topics you want me to go over as well, and we'll take a look at those for you guys. All right. Until then, thank you. Bye-bye.